So welcome here, man. I'm stoked to be talking to you today. And I know we just kind of chit chat a little bit right now, but for the audience that's watching, I just want to jump kind of right into it. Like, tell me who you are. Tell me a little bit. Give us a little context about you.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Payton Holm. I'm originally from Wishing, North Dakota, which is a really small town of like a population of like about 1,000. It's like a real small farming community. And there is where we have like one family physician, and he's kind of like what stood out to me of like wanting to go into medicine, just because I was able to see the big impact that he made on all the generations before me, as like he took care of like my grandma, my mom, and now me. And so it's kind of cool to see that generations that he had an impact on. I went to school at Minnesota State University of Moorhead, where I got degrees in exercise science and biology with minors in chemistry, strength and conditioning, and um, I'm blanking on it right now. Anyways, I got another minor.
Yeah.
And during my time during undergrad, I was a PCT or a CNA, and some places call it, at emergency department here in Fargo, North Dakota, along with a psych or behavioral health unit. I would say what got me to join Alejandro was, I remember I followed him on Instagram, and at the time I was still part of premed, and I still currently am, but I remember following him, and I saw like all the success stories of how he is able to get people in with lower MCATs, and I was just kind of thinking like, okay, how is he able to do this? And it kind of came to me like a lot of it is your story. Like, yes, your stats do matter, but that at the end of the day, they want competent physicians that are going to be wholesome. They're going to have good bedside manner. And yes, you can score a 522 MCAT and yet still not be a wholesome physician and have terrible bedside manner. I've seen it happen. I've also seen where people score high on the MCAT and they don't do as well on USMLE. And I've seen people score low on the MCAT and they do just fine on USMLE. So
Yep.
At the end of the day, yes, your MCAT is not your all go-to. It's not the big number. I mean, like, your GPA matters, your story. And I felt like I had a pretty solid story, and I just didn't know how to put it together. So then I reached out to Alejandro, and that was probably my biggest success and the most beneficial thing I've actually ever done. So,
Dude, that's awesome. Peyton, so you're from a small town, 1,000 people. Like that's wild, man. And I know your personal statement really, really well. Every time I read it, it still gives me like chills, honestly. And other people have been fortunate enough to see snippets of it. And yeah, I think the feedback, the reactions that I get from people are like, whoa, right? Even me just thinking about your personal statement right now, like, gives me chills, because I remember very specific things that you talked about in it. And I think that's so critical, because it's like, when you can get that reaction out of an admissions committee member, like a medical school, they're going to remember that. And it's almost like logic kind of like, I don't want to say it, but like logic kind of goes out the window for them, because emotions begin to take over, and they're like, I got to meet this guy. I got to meet this person. Like, I don't care. I don't care what the thing says, right? Like, I got to meet this person. And it's almost like that logic kind of goes out the window. Like, I don't care what their MCAT or GPA was, right? But walk me through that, Peyton. You said that, you're talking about MCAT and stuff like that, and your thinking was, I think I'd have a 515, 514, whatever, be a competent physician. What were your, like, are you open to sharing your stats, or you don't got to say them specifically, or you can kind of maybe comment on them? Like, what were
no, I am more than happy to share my stats. I'm all about that. I'm not afraid to hide my MCAT. I didn't do well in the MCAT. I took it twice. My first time, it was a huge flaw, and I got a 494, and I wasn't excited with myself. And at the time, I didn't know if medicine was meant for me and if I wanted to go to PA school or medical school. And I took another gap year to kind of really decide like what I want to do. And my wife at the time she's like, I support you no matter what you do, which was phenomenal. But then I reached out to some friends, and they kind of gave me some real life advice, and like, they told me to kind of treat it like undergrad, and like how I went in undergrad, I went into every test like confident, like I knew everything on it. And the thing is with MCAT, you're not going to know everything. It doesn't matter how long you study, whatever it is. But I sat down, I wrote some pros and cons between PA school, med school, and I did like about 100 more hours of shadowing. And my one question to every physician was, if you could go back and do it all over again, would you go to PA school or would you go to med school? And they said, as hard as it was, I would go to med school 100 times over. And they're like, I love my job. I love the autonomy. And that's kind of the biggest thing that drove me to go into medicine was autonomy and being able to lead a team, having that final say, and knowing that I've done everything I could for that patient at the end of the day. But aside from that, my second round MCAT was a 500. My breakdown was 125, 120, 130, 125. And my 120, I had a medical issue that happened during the time, and I believe that was like my biggest reason why I deflated, because I was averaging like a 125 on cars like during my practice exams. My GPA was overall was a 3.82 with a science of 3.91. I was the odd one where my science was higher than my overall.
Yeah, that is odd. Love it.
I had a little over 4,000 patient care hours between being a PCT in the ER and behavioral health unit. That also adds, I also had like about 200 hours of being an EMR. I had 1,800 volunteer hours as a volunteer firefighter. I did some other volunteering at like Fargo Hero, which is a place where we sell products, used medical products that come in. We refurbish them and sell them for lower cost for people that might not have insurance, or maybe financially they just don't have the funds. And then I also did some OT/PT aid volunteering at one of our local hospitals here. I did about 300 hours, 350, it was like 350, I think is what it was, of human anatomy TA. I was vice president of National Society of Leadership and Success. I was co-chair on a committee here at the hospital. I added powerlifting as one of my things because I feel as a hobby is always kind of needed. That way they kind of see you're someone outside of just medicine and academics. And that's my go-to thing to kind of like relieve my stress. So I put on powerlifting, and I don't remember how many hours, but I put that on there just in case if they wanted to ask me about it. That way I could kind of relate to, yeah, this is like my go-to thing to kind of relieve from stress or get away from school and kind of just shut the brain off.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 research projects that I worked on, 500 hours total around there. Yeah.
So you had, Payton, just hearing it kind of globally right now, and for anybody that's listening, you had a 494, then a 500. And I think for most people, and this is what I get in the DMs a lot from applicants, even applicants in the program, when they first start off, they think it's a death sentence. They think like, oh my gosh, I have to retake the MCAT. And they're going to look back at the 494, and they're going to look at the 500, and they're just going to see that's such a red flag. And they start constructing these narratives like, man, I'm quote unquote damaged goods, and they're not going to accept me. But you're living testament that that's just not true. And not only that, Payton, it's like, you in our current climate right now, you are considered overrepresented in medicine. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I think for folks that are looking at this and they're like, dude, I'm cooked. I'm overrepresented in medicine. I took the MCAT twice. I got a 500. Like, I'm done. There is no chance for me. And I think, yes, I think what's important to realize is that you had these other pieces in your application that were strengths. Like 4,000 PCT hours, that's a lot of hours. Like most pre-meds don't have that. Most pre-meds don't even have 2,000 hours, 1,000 hours, to be honest. And so I think that's a strength of your application. And some of these other unique areas where you were a volunteer firefighter, you were vice president, you had some leadership stuff in there. And so, I don't know, I'm just thinking like, it wasn't a death sentence, first of all. I actually think I'm a belief of that. It's a testament to your resilience that you're going to retake the MCAT and you improved. Even it wasn't a 511 or a 520, but that doesn't matter. You improved and you retook the MCAT. I think that's such a green flag. And then the important thing is to like rest assured in your other areas of strength. Everybody has them. Maybe they don't have 4,000 hours, but they have other areas in their application that they're proud of. Can you speak at all to any of this stuff, Payton?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was kind of like talking to my mom about this, and she's like, "So why do you keep on shadowing? Why do you keep on volunteering?" And I already like I already knew like I was gonna be applying to med school like this upcoming cycle, and I said, "Well, first of all, it's things that I enjoy. I think shadowing is very beneficial, especially when you get so caught up in your role of being a medical scribe, EMT, or a PCT, CNA, whatever. Sometimes shadowing is just kind of that. Okay, this is my dream. This is my end goal." And it can be very unmotivating sometimes. Like I said, you get caught up in the PCT role that you lose sight of what I'm actually going to school for. But I remember she kept on asking me why do you keep on doing all this? And I was like, well, I enjoy it. And second of all, I want to be someone that is very unique. That way when I come to admissions committee, they're like, wow, this person has 410 shadowing hours. Like that's impressive.
Yeah.
And or like this person has almost 2,000 volunteering hours. Like I want to be someone that's going to stand out, and I feel I did. I mean, another beneficial thing was me applying early. I say that to everyone that I talk to is apply early as you can. I applied at like the end of May for DO, and I applied right on time, like May 31st or June 1st, whatever it is, for MD. And I think that was super beneficial, along with getting your secondaries back within a week. Aside from that, my hours.
Yeah, and I think that's great, Peyton. Honestly, that what I'm hearing you say is that like you learn to control what you can control.
Yeah,
You know,
I
you're
knew my
like,
MCAT was low, so
yeah,
I needed a rebound somewhere. And I was told many a times, like, no, like retake your MCAT. You're just gonna be donating money to the school. Or I remember another person saying to me, like, yeah, you can apply this cycle, but it might be a pretty rough cycle. And then now that I'm sitting here at 18 interviews and 8 acceptances, it's like I was very thankful for what I did and just stuck with my gut and just applied and used my story the best I could. And I think you helped huge on that. When I look at my first med school personal statement, because I technically applied last cycle, I applied to like 2 schools and like with my 494 MCAT. And when I look at my personal statement back then compared to now, I'm just like, wow. I've even had, I think, 2 or 3 people, different admissions committees, tell me that they love my personal statement. I've had one told me that it gives them chills.
wow.
And yeah, it's phenomenal hearing that, and it's nice knowing that the hard work paid off. And kind of like how I was telling you, now that I'm accepted to my top MD program, it's just like it's surreal knowing that all those hours, all those almost 10,000 hours across volunteering, leadership, research, working, all that is finally paid off.
That's amazing, man. I love it gives me chills when I hear that. That you were reapplicant and you came back so strong. And Peyton, like walk me through that, man. Like I remember when we were talking, we were exchanging messages on the DMs and stuff like that. Walk me through that. What was it like when you first reached out to me? What were you stuck with maybe on your application? What had you already tried that maybe just you knew wasn't going to work again? And like,
I think
what was that turning point that you reached out to me? You're like, let's just do it. I'm going to take a leap of faith with this guy.
Like I said before, I saw how many applicants were successful with lower stats, and I knew I had the lower stats. I'm not a person to sit down and write, and I knew I needed someone to help me kind of conform my narrative, like my story of like why I want to go into medicine, because I feel like I had the story, I just didn't know how to put it together. And I think that was the turning point. Is I know a lot of personal statements can make or break whether you get an interview or not, and I think that's also a huge benefit of why I got an interview, is because my personal statement really stood out. But that was the turning point. Was I knew at the end of the day, personal statements can make or break, and I'm not a very strong writer, so I knew I needed help. And with all the success that I've seen with your page and getting applicants in, or applicants that get full ride scholarships, I was like, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger, and I need the help. And that's why I decided to reach out at that time.
Dude, that's awesome, man. And I think it's so important for people to realize, because it's like, and I've seen the reverse too, Peyton. And that's actually, I see more of the reverse than your circumstances, the lower MCAT, right? I've seen the reverse where it's higher MCAT and almost no return back. And the reason it's pretty simple. It's like the medical school, there's no shortage. of high stat applicants. There's absolutely no shortage of them. Like you could throw a rock in any direction and hit an applicant with a 512 MCAT, a 517 MCAT, a 519 MCAT. And the applicants return, they're like, dude, I got maybe one interview invite and I applied to 52 schools and I got waitlisted there. And it's like, why? Well, it's like, yeah, because you're not speaking to their souls. Yeah. Just like you said, Payton, it's like that one person told you, like, it gave me chills. I can almost guarantee you I'm telling you, it gives me chills all the time. This is exactly what I do. It gave most of the people that read your personal statement chills, and you snatched their soul. And there was such emotional equity buy-in that they had to bypass logic and be like, yeah, we have a handful of 515 applicants, but man, this one guy right here, I don't know. There's something about him, right? And that's what applicants miss. And it's a shame because we don't learn as pre-meds how to speak to people's soul like that through writing, through interviews and stuff like that. And I think that's it's a shame, you know. So you talked about a little bit before the personal statement, a little bit after you joined the program, which is awesome, and you saw the sheer difference. Let's talk about, and I know that where you signed up there was a little bit of a shift in the program. It wasn't MTM or Market the Mission officially. It was still I was branded as something else prior, and it was primarily personal statement focused. But as you were in the program, it kind of grew, and there was like interview resources available to you. There were secondary resources available to you. There was a community that got built and stuff like that. From an interview standpoint, how did you feel? Like, what was I don't really know your interview prep too much. I'm hoping that you leaned in some of the resources that we had in the program, but like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I used all of the interview weaponization. I sat down one day and I just went through it, and I really liked when it came to the ethics scenarios and how you broke it down. Just because those are typically your tougher questions when it comes to an interview. Every interview that I've had, the only tough question that I typically have is some sort of ethical question. And I felt like I answered them all really well. I've even had med schools like tell me like that's a very good answer. I'd probably go the same way about it. And I think that was huge, mainly because I watched your interview weaponization. Another piece of interview advice I would give is like when I talk to a lot of medical students, they all told me, be yourself. And it's so simple, but at the end of the day, they want to know who you are. They don't want you to be some robot with these made up answers. And the thing is, you already got the interview, so you know stats wise you're good enough. And now it's time to learn who you actually are. And that be yourself is the most simple piece of advice, but I think it's honestly what got me through a lot of my interviews, especially with like my UND interview. I was just myself and I was honest, and I said how I want to come back to North Dakota and I want to practice medicine. And again, just be yourself when it comes to interviews. It's a simple piece of advice, and what I think a lot of it is just don't be a robot with these made up answers or these rehearsed answers. Otherwise, they know that you kind of care, but not enough to. Yeah.
It's so interesting. I think, Payton, like, I love the be yourself thing. And then my only thing with that is that some applicants that I work with, they're like, I would be myself, but myself is like very introverted and super shy and timid, and it's awkward for me to talk to people. And I'm like, well, then it's like, you can either accept that for what it is, or you can decide to make a change, right? And I tell people this all the time. It's up to you, right? If you want to wallow in that, and if you want to kind of victimize yourself in that, then all right. Then I can promise you right now, someone who's in the similar circumstances you will make the decision to make that change. They will do that. They're willing to do what you're not willing to do. And they're the ones that are going to get acceptance. And so, and I'm so happy that you watched the interview optimization series that we have on the program. And in the skills lab, I think we talked about it once, where we did a little mini workshop. I don't know if you saw that one, where it's like, you're using your body as an instrument. You're using your voice as an instrument. How do you kind of gain that social equity? How do you step outside of an introvert style and more of an extrovert? And Payton, I think for you, just interacting with you, like, I know that this is more kind of like, it's more second nature to you. It's more like, yeah, I can totally see what Alejandro's saying right there. And in fact, I do some of these things already. But with some other people, they're like, whoa, I never knew that the pitch in your voice can change everything. Your hand gestures can change everything, right? Like, so it's those like subtle little nuanced things, right? But very interesting, Peyton. And just kind of moving on here, I'm curious, and I would like you to be honest as possible, like, because people are thinking about this as they watch it. Like, what were some hesitations that you had with me when you you pulled the trigger essentially, and you're like, all right, what were some hesitations? And you can be honest and real. Like, what were some of your hesitations of joining this program and working with me?
Honestly, okay. So part of me is going to say I didn't have any hesitations. The only hesitation I'm going to say was that I was already part of pre-med, and I felt like I was shooting them in the back with going with you. But at the same time, pre-med has so many applicants. I understand it's hard for them to get around. They have like over 200 people in there, and it's hard to get around and be like, hey, I'm gonna sit down and look at your personal statement. And they get so many other people where you take in like what I think like 15 at a time or something like that, or is it a little bit more?
I keep it really, really small. The cohort overall gets bigger and bigger, but I open the enrollment window just periodically so that we can get just for a few people, so we get the bulk of the work done and get it going.
Yep. And that's the nice part, because then you get a lot of individual work, and I feel like you can really hone in on someone's personal statement or secondaries or whatever it is, where a place like that is just, it's so hard because there's so many other applicants. I'm not throwing them down the drain or anything. I love both. I love both of them. I still use both of them, and I think they're both beneficial. I would say go ahead, and if you have the money, go ahead and use it. They're beneficial. But that was probably just my one hesitation. Other than that, when I saw all the success stories, I was like, I need this guy. I need this guy. He's gonna be beneficial to me. And I have low stats. He's gonna help me excel, and that's exactly what you did. And I can't thank you enough for that. So,
dude, I'm super grateful you're part of the program, Peyton. I know we've exchanged a lot of DMs and stuff like that, and dude, just your DMs pump me up all the time, bro. You posting in our Echo Base, our private server, Discord server, like, the community in the highest channels, like, it pumps people up and stuff. And I love that about you, Peyton. I love how open and honest you are, and you're able to kind of talk like this. Join us on this call today. Honestly, by the way, I love Premedly. Like, in fact, I've told people, go to Premedly. Like, they have a great resource. I hear nothing but good things about them and stuff. So I have no like shade at other companies and other people, because there's so many pre-meds out there that need help, right? Where I throw the shade is like the generic advice, the freebie templates, the medfluencers, who are just like, there's a freebie little template, and it's like, but then it leads you down a funnel of a bigger price tag, right? And it's like not that individualized support, that just kind of the generic blanket advice. And I see it all around. And then, big companies, they have their utility. I think there's some great stuff out there with bigger companies. And I tell people, I actually will say, go check out this thing by this company. Go check out this thing by this company. Some of the price tags there are just like egregious. They're like, I'm personally just shocked about it. But yeah, it's kind of where I stand. And I'm looking for like I'm quote unquote smaller, but I'm looking for a very targeted pre-med. I'm looking for individuals like yourself who are super driven. I'm looking for individuals who really want to think differently about this pre-med cycle, where it's not just a checkbox mentality, but more of like really kind of get in there with the reflections, their insights, understand their value that they bring to the table, and reframe their mind and like, oh yeah, I've done these things. They should be chasing me. They should be pursuing me. Like, no, it's not the other way around. I feel like I'm almost rewiring pre-med's brains that come into this program. Did you feel like any of this, Peyton, when you were in the program?
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you brought that up. When I was watching like the videos to the personal statement and like how to phrase it, and it was really unique when I tell people, like, I felt that my personal statement really stood out, and I'm like, it's not your typical personal statement. It's like a lot of people will have like your introduction, and they'll kind of like go along, and then a conclusion. Yours is like kind of like an intro. It's like a story in each one, and I thought that was super beneficial. But I also like how you say kind of rewiring the brains, because there are some times where you would speak and I'm like, I guess I never thought about that, and it like just something else clicked in my head where it'd bring up like another idea, or it'd bring up like another idea and allow me to write a lot more, or kind of like how committees should be chasing you and you shouldn't be chasing the committee. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, you should be proud of who you are, the work you put in. Like, they should come want to meet you. And
So good. And I always tell people like it's like the frame that we kind of go into this with is like I'm good with you, but I'm also good without you. And that's what
Yeah.
I think that's what that's what this program does. That's when I'm like drilling into pre-med's heads or applicants' heads and your head. It's like no, it's like you have to be learn to say no, learn to have boundaries, learn to no, I'm not going to be grateful for this one wait list that I got to a school that I don't really want to go to. No, you worked your ass off for 4 years. No, it's like you need to be selfish. And it's like pre-med's here, then they're like, oh, like, no, that's all 100. I can't, that's not noble of me. Like I need to be a good pre-med and I need to learn my place. And it's like, no, I don't align with that. I don't believe in that. That's not my values. Just as we wrap up here, Payton, I have a couple other things that I wanted to ask that I actually wrote down. Looking back, you know, well, we kind of already talked about that, like what you in terms of like the outcomes and I guess like what did you actually buy in terms of like, here, I put it here. What did you actually buy in terms of outcomes and stress level during the cycle? Like, I guess in context of the investment you made in this program, and I know you were part of pre-medley too, but like, was it just a personal statement or did you get more? Did you get more out of it? Was there something else? I guess I feel like it's a leading question, not the best.
Yeah, no, I mean the personal statement was huge, but then I also think just being part of that community and being surrounded by like-minded people is super beneficial. And it really helps when people in the group chat are like, oh, did you interview here? Did you interview here? What were your thoughts? What kind of questions? And I thought that was super beneficial being part of that group chat. Personal statement was huge. But yeah, I think just the other biggest thing is just that group chat and the confidence that you can gain from the group chat and seeing other people succeed and other people cheering you on when you succeed. Like I remember when I posted my acceptance to my top MD program and all the love that I got in there, it was just phenomenal. And it makes it feel surreal knowing that all the hard work is paid off.
So good, man. And yeah, you know, right now with the program, it's like, again, you kind of signed up before, but now it's become even more robust. And now it's like we have designed game plans for every single applicant I work with. There's a tailored plan according with dates, everything they've done, you know, and our skills labs are weekly and stuff like that. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of gain that community, which I think is super important. Last question here, Payton. If you were speaking like directly to maybe a pre-med who's been following my page, who's just like maybe on the fence about joining the program, well, I guess what were the words that you would tell them maybe?
Yeah, I've actually shown multiple people your page because I was like, if you want your personal statement to be phenomenal, go to him. And I showed him your page and everything because kind of like what you brought up earlier, there are people that score 520s and they only get one interview or they might not get any interview. And that a lot of that is because their personal statement can't really describe the actual story of what they've gone through and why they want to go into medicine. And I knew that was the biggest game changer, was my personal statement. So that's why I joined you. And I show people all the time. I'm like, my personal statement is phenomenal now. Like it is like I can't even describe the difference between my first personal statement and my second. It was just like my first one was like, what am I even writing here? With the second one, I agree with you. It still gives me chills, even though it's like my own story, but it's just like knowing like all the success has paid off and I'm able to put that on one page of paper. And
good, man. I love that. And by the way, Payton, it's like you have so many interviews at this point and acceptances. You know, the financial aid aspect comes into it. And I know that's a big thing. It's not really a concern for pre-meds as they're applying, but then for some it is. But then when they get those acceptances, then it becomes like reality, like, oh, yeah, money thing, right? And so hopefully you've tapped into the financial aid, the med school money lab that we recently did, and you're able to kind of leverage some of those skills in terms of negotiating your financial aid, right? In terms of scholarship. So that's what I want people to get out of this program too. It's like, yeah, you're able to get med school maybe paid for. So, but if you have any questions about that workshop that we did, after you watch it, please reach out and DM me and stuff like that. I'm more than happy to help. And then last question here, Payton, is really kind of a piggyback off the one I just said, but like, who do you ultimately think this is like not for? Like, if you were to think about a pre-med, like this program, what my beliefs, my values, what I teach, and I know it's unconventional, a lot of the stuff that we do, who do you think like really is maybe this isn't for this kind of person right here?
I would definitely say the people that you don't pick. And what I mean by that is people that are one-minded, not driven, only their way is going to work. Because with this, you have to be really open-minded and take on your philosophy. And I think it's super beneficial because you taught me some things I never even thought of and kind of, like you said, rewired my brain. So someone that's not willing to learn or just like one-minded, like just one path driven, it would not be for these type of people. And I think you say it best kind of when that you try to choose people that are driven and motivated to, at the end of the day, become a physician. That's really what this program is for. And I kind of feel that's how I am. I'm driven. I'll do whatever it takes for me to get into med school. And that's kind of what I did. And that's why I went for it. And I took the shot with you and it's paid off. So
awesome, man. Your wife must be stoked, bro.
Yeah, she is. And she's a nurse. So she'll get a job anywhere.
That's right, dude. So amazing, Payton. Parting words of wisdom, just general for the person out there that's facing low stats, that's just kind of maybe in your shoes, that's just feeling doubt, that's just like maybe they're a reapplicant, maybe they're just like every piece of life is just hitting them. Maybe they got engaged recently and they just feel the weight of the world on their shoulders. Any words of wisdom that you'd part them with?
My biggest thing is knowing that at the end of the day, you're going to be a phenomenal physician. It doesn't matter your score. It doesn't matter your stats in general. Tell your story because your story could be so unique. I think that's the biggest thing when I talk to a lot of pre-meds is just knowing that everyone has such a different story. Some people come right out of undergrad going into medical school, and that's not how everyone's journey is. My journey was a lot of ups and downs. I'm on my second gap year now. Knowing that it's not a straight path. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs. When I first thought about going into medical school, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go in right out of undergrad, and the MCAT wasn't great for me. So I was a setback of another year. And then I took like almost about half a year to decide what I actually wanted to do. And it just goes to show that it's kind of a roller coaster. And at the end of the day, you'll get there, you'll do what you want to do. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you want to do it, you'll find any way to succeed. And yeah, the biggest thing, like I had low stats, but my story was phenomenal. And I felt like it set me apart from a lot of others.
So true, man. It's like, and it reminds me too, I was 30 years old when I started medical school, and I didn't have the best stats. I had a better, my MCAT was 5.10, but my GPA was a 3.3. So it was like, we kind of were reversed a little bit. So I was just like you, man. I was terrified, and I was cultivating all these narratives and things like that in my head, just like a lot of folks do. But yeah, if you, like you said it best, Payton, if you want to do this, you can do this. You're your own limiting factor, and you will be an excellent physician. So, man, it was a blast, Payton, and I really appreciate you hopping on this call today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Payton.